to relax. That's reciprocal inhibition. What reflex has that? The knee jerk, right? Shake. The knee jerk, when they touch your knee and it's supposed to contract, you get the agonist, which is your quadriceps, to contract. At the same time, the hamstrings, the antagonist to your quadriceps, are told to relax. Knee jerk reflex. That's reciprocal inhibition. Reciprocal inhibition is automatic in reflexes. However, you get reciprocal inhibition in voluntary movement as well. This is typical in skilled movement. Somebody who is skilled in what they do, they do reciprocal inhibition because it's more efficient. The less muscles that you're contracting to do some movement means less energy output on your part. So in skilled movement, this happens. In unskilled movement, this doesn't happen. So the more skilled you become and the more training that you do in a movement, the more you're going to get reciprocal inhibition, and you just learn how to do that. More complicated movements depend on the degree of the skill developed by the performer. So the more complicated that movement is, the more skill that performer needs, and the more that they have to learn how to do reciprocal inhibition. As opposed to coactivation. That's the exact opposite of reciprocal inhibition. This is when you coactivate your agonist and your antagonist. Sometimes this is necessary. It most frequently appears in movements where uncertainty is occurring. So unskilled, novice, typically have coactivation. They're overdoing it. They're muscling it. We talked about that a little bit before, and some lectures earlier before we talked about muscling through something. Practice increases familiarity, and coactivation decreases in favor of reciprocal inhibition, like we said before. As the novice becomes more of an expert, coactivation goes away and reciprocal inhibition will increase. Your efficiency of your movement will increase with reciprocal inhibition. The efficiency of your movement decreases with coactivation, because the more muscles you have to use, the more energy you have to use. More energy means less efficiency. And coactivation occurs when we do need to maintain some type of joint stiffness. If we need a joint to create some level of stability so that some other segment of our body can move, we get coactivation, and that's a good thing. So coactivation isn't necessarily always a bad thing. Sometimes we need a joint to be stiff so another one can be free. Like kicking, right? This limb needs to be free. This limb is going to be doing reciprocal inhibition. This one is going to do coactivation because it needs to maintain a base of support so that this limb can be free to move. Is that okay? Neuromuscular analysis. So back to our concept of this class of learning how to do a kinematic analysis. You guys went back to lab number 1, and you had to be able to tell me the purpose of the skill with the mechanical underlying objectives of the skill. You break it down into events and phases. You identify which joints are moving. You tell me how they're moving. You tell me what type of contraction is going on there. And then you tell me what muscles are doing it. That's kind of what we've done so far in lab. Now, with this lab 4 that you're doing, you're going to add on the next step to the kinematic analysis, which is the neuromuscular analysis. So, theoretically, by the end of the class, when you are doing your final project, in every phase of a movement, you should be able to identify what reflexes are helping the movement, facilitating the movement that's going on, as well as any reflexes that are being inhibited because we don't want them to be working. We want to override them. That's a neuromuscular analysis. So at any time somebody's doing a skill, you break it up into its phases, you should be able to identify some reflex that's going on in each of those phases. Some of them are going to be facilitatory, some of them you're going to want to inhibit. The ones that are most common that we inhibit, which ones do you think that we try to not do? Out of those reflexes, which ones do we not want to happen when you're walking around or something?
Spinning the ear one?
Okay,
the one in your ear?
Something in the labyrinth system?
Yeah.
If I want to go and do a handstand, I don't want that reflex to throw myself back up. I want to be able to stay upside down. What other ones associated in the area? What are these ones? We did this yesterday.
Tonic? The tonic?
Tonic neck reflexes. Every time I turn my head, I don't want my arms to do this, right? Or sometimes if I lean back, I don't want my arms to do this. I may want them to, you know, if you're going to go and catch a pop fly, you don't want to be doing this, right? You want to be able to do this. That's the opposite of what that reflex is doing. So you're going against it. You're inhibiting it. You're stopping that from happening. You just know how to do that. So those are, sometimes you have reflexes maybe like in the jump. You know there's a phasic stretch reflex going on. But when you're looking up and your arms are doing this, you know you're overriding the symmetrical TNR. So that's a neuromuscular analysis. Okay? All right. So that is the end of material, lecture material for exam number 1. All right? Again, this is on the syllabus, what lectures and labs were covered in the first exam. It's 1 through 8, 1 through 4. Move in here.